Ian McKelvey.
Mr Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak on the Agricultural Compounds and Veterinary Medicines Amendment Bill. It gives me great pleasure, Mr Speaker, to follow that very well-known farmer from Rongotai who introduced this topic today. And I say that with very good reason, because if you think about the contribution that Minister Finlayson has made to agriculture in New Zealand, and my electorate particularly, where you've got Ngāti Apa and Aotearoa partnering in a pretty amazing farming arrangement, he'll be known in the future as someone who established some of New Zealand's great farms in his time as a minister. So I think it was very appropriate that he should introduce this bill. I want to go into the background of this bill a little bit because there's no hayseeds on him. I want to go to the background of this bill a little bit because there was a lot of discussion leading up to this bill coming to the House in the industry and some disagreement as to how this bill, I guess, might take place. And as it turned out, in the end, it was pretty much unanimously supported by all participants and all those who commented on the bill and who submitted to it. I just want to go into the history of it a bit, though, because it's not, you've got to remember we're a small country, not a very attractive marketplace, and if our compliance and cost of entry are too high, we then are precluded from accessing some of the best products in the world. We're a small but very diverse market for both veterinary products or medicines and for agricultural compounds, and many of these have multi-use, and if the cost of application for that use is too great, they won't come to New Zealand. The introduction of new generation of product into the New Zealand market is hugely important for us, and I'm sure that will be gone into a little later. One of the reasons it's so important is because it enables us to get rid of a large number of older products who no longer have a useful place in agriculture, but are being used in places in the world simply because the new products haven't either got there or aren't able to be utilised in those markets. And it's very important that we enable that to happen. There's also been a long-held view in the industry that too long a period of protection for data, or patent, was deferential to the industry as the prices stayed high for too long. However, the access to new product is seen as a much greater advantage to the industry than the fact that the price might, I guess, remain a little higher for a little longer. So there was almost universal agreement among the submitters as to the best solution for New Zealand. I think that was quite exciting. I think it's also a very opportune time for us to be putting through legislation like this, as we've probably never seen changes in the agricultural and pastoral sector at the rate that we're seeing at the moment. And so opportunity is amazingly different than it has been in the past, and we need to keep up with the times and enable change to happen very quickly. As a matter of interest, there's about 300 companies with about 3,000 products that are registered for sale in New Zealand under this Act. And they go everywhere from, it could be as simple a product as an insect repellent that can be claimed under this Act, could be rat poison. Clearly it's a number of the products that have already been talked about, like some of the chemicals that are very prevalent in New Zealand today, particularly in pasture farming. And also, for those of us who've been around the industry for a long time, the simple old drench, all those drenches that we use for worm control and things like that in animals. They're all registered under this Act as well. So, Mr Speaker, I want to thank the committee for pretty good work in the course of getting through this bill, and also Minister Goodhue, who brought this bill to the committee. I want to make a very brief comment on the Greens' opinion, who have chosen to introduce a minority view to this bill, which I think makes a number of political points, some of the relevance of which are questionable. I also think that and of course the Greens have every right, everyone has every right to bring a minority report to a bill. But I do think that from a New Zealand Inc. point of view, as I said earlier, it's very important that we enable these new generation products to come into this market and be utilised as they are. I just want to comment on a few of the changes to the bill as introduced. We are extending the level of, or the base level of data protection from 5 years to 10 years in New Zealand, and for the reasons I've outlined before. And just as a bit of a matter of example around the world, in Australia, I think that the time that this data protection is in place for is about 8 years. The USA and the European Union 10, and in Japan for 15 years. We've placed ourselves at 10 years. which I think gives us a much stronger place in the market and enables our companies to I guess, come into the country with some confidence. There's new uses for innovative compounds, and the previous speaker went into this to some extent. So, being an innovative kind of country, New Zealand, we've always found ways of using products that are designed for one thing, they can easily be used for something else. And in the past, they have been used for that, not necessarily in a manner that we would perhaps approve. This legislation enables that to happen, and it allows those compounds to be protected for the remaining period of the original, either of the original 10-year period or 5 years after the new use application is decided, whichever is the longer. The committee decided to do this because it encouraged the early registration of new uses, which covers what I just talked about, where there's so many different uses we can have for these products. So, Speaker, we've also went into the ability of MPI to reassess this stuff, and that was that's necessary because MPI, and I'm sure that this will be raised later in the discussion, MPI needs the ability to look into these products if they are suspicious or suspect that they're not performing as they should. So, Mr. Speaker, I've probably used my time, and I look forward to the discussion that takes place during the committee stage of this bill. Thank you, Speaker.